Sorry about that. My phone is being balanced off of a cup right now, so. So proceed. So for 7, read the following passage and explain how Holling's perspective is changing. Hint, how is he seeing his town differently? So, on a Wednesday afternoon, Mrs. Baker takes him around to see like architect, and shows him how just, like appreciation of architect. And so then they say, and explain, okay, so I saw my town as if I was just arrived. It was as if I was waking up. You see houses and buildings every day and you walk by them on your own to something else. And you hardly notice they're even there. Mostly because there's something else going on right in front of your face. But when the town itself becomes a thing that is going on right in front of your face, it all changes. And you're not just looking at a house, but what's happened in the house before you were born. That afternoon, driving with Mrs. Baker, the American Revolution was here. The escaped slaves were here. The abolitionists were here. And I was here. It made me feel so responsible. So now I feel like at the beginning of the chapter, he was saying how the book, how Holling would describe his town and like put it from, these groups of people were here, over here, it was a small town. And now he's seeing it like with all of the history that was there and all of the meaning behind it. And now he's connecting, with the architecture and the history. And it's actually starting to mean something to him that like this is a small town, but it has so much history and it carries so much. So then it says, read the following passage and explain what it shows about how Holling is changing as a character. I prayed for Lieutenant Baker missing in action. I prayed for Danny Humphreys sweating out in Hebrew school. I prayed for my sister driving in a yellow bug toward California. So during his field trip with Mrs. Baker, seeing, architect around the town, they stop in a church, a Catholic church, actually. And he's a Presbyterian, so she was like, are you sure your parents are going to be okay with that? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. So they go in and they light a candle to pray, and he finds himself praying for all these people. And he finds himself, like, praying for his sister. And, at some points of the book, he was like, oh, I hate my sister, like, she's so annoying, blah, blah, blah. And he finds himself just, sending these positivity to these people and hoping everything will be okay for them. So I feel like instead of him, having a grudge or anything towards any of these people, he doesn't know Lieutenant Baker, but, it's Mrs. Baker's husband, that he's now, hoping the best for them. Especially his sister. So then read the following passage and then explain what Holling realizes about his feelings towards his sister. I realized that the biggest part of the empty in the house was my sister being gone. Maybe the first time you really care about something is when you think about it, it is not there. And you really know that the emptiness is as much inside you as outside you. That's when I knew for the first time I really did love my sister, but I didn't know if I wanted more for her to come back or for her to find whatever she was trying to find. So this actually really got me, because when he says maybe the first time you really care about someone is when you think about it is not being there, and you really know that the emptiness is as much inside as it is outside of you. So him just saying, like, when his sister left, he didn't realize like how much he would miss her, and without her presence of physically being there, he feels like he also is missing a part of him, like inside, like a piece of his heart is missing because he just misses his sister that much. Like what I said before, from the beginning of the book, you can really tell how Holling is even like maturing and starting to see that like he just loves his sister and like hopes for the best, like for her, that, you know, he doesn't know if he wants her to come back so he can like not miss her anymore, or that he just wants her to be happy and to just find whatever she's looking for. How does Holling help his sister return home? Who does and does not help him? What does this show about him? So Holling gets a phone call one night, and it's from his sister, and his parents are asleep, and she's like, I am in Michigan. Her friend left her, the guy who she went on the trip with, and, you know, she's crying, and he's crying, and she has $4 on her, and the bus is $44.50. And so he's like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. He skips school the next day, hands in a bond that he received, and, you know, sends her the bus ticket money. She reaches out to him, and she's like, okay, I'm on my way home, finally. She's now in Chicago. She comes home, gets a bus to New York City. That morning, so she's arriving in New York City at 10:50. That morning, he's sitting down at breakfast with his parents, and he's like, okay, so she, you know, she's on her way back home. Are you guys gonna go help me? When are you driving to New York City so we can pick her up? And the mom's eyes well up, meaning like she's emotional, like she puts her hand over her face, kind of like, oh my goodness, like she's happy, and I feel like her emotions are running wild because she probably would want to go help him. And it shows because the father says, I'm not helping her. Like, no, absolutely not. Like, and then mows the lawn. And instead, his mom, you know, Holling's like, Mom, are you serious? Like, at least, you know, fine, I'll find my way, but then give me money for lunch or whatever. And so she does. She gives them, you know, a lot of money for lunch and to make sure that they get home, another train ticket. So you could tell that the mom wanted to help, but maybe she couldn't help because how then it would put her in a position with her husband. So, you know, could she even, like, what would Mr. Hood say? So then Holling finally gets his sister, brings her home, and so then they're at the kitchen table. Now we're going to question 11. It says, when Holling's father asked Heather if she found herself, Holling says, she found me. What do you think he means by this? So Holling's father didn't say anything at all when his sister arrived, and then finally he's like, did you find yourself? Kind of mocking, maybe, in a way. And his sister's like, what? And he's like, did you find yourself? And Holling speaks up, and she goes, she found me. Because, you know, like, she was alone, she was scared, she needed help, and Holling was there. Holling showed her that, you know, he is a really good brother and he cares about her. So then in the passage below, Holling describes the happy sounds he can think of. It says, they would be nothing compared to blank. Explain the glad sound Holling hears at the end of May, the reason of it. So then it gives you this, where it says, think of the sound you make when you let go after holding your breath for a very, very long time. Think of the gladdest sounds you know. The sound of dawn on the first day of spring. The sound of a bottle of Coke opening. The sound of a crowd cheering in your ears because you're coming down to the last part of a race and you're ahead. Think of the sound of a bus coming into the station carrying someone you love. Then put those all together and they would be nothing compared to... And it is the sound Mrs. Baker made when she found out her husband was safe. Oh, sorry. Just trying to find. I will read it. The note. Mrs. Sidman, so it was a Wednesday afternoon. Mrs. Sidman came in and with a note, and Mrs. Baker like knew, okay, this is probably about her husband. And when she opened up the note, it said, "Sweet eyes, out of jungle. Okay. Home in time for strawberries. Love, Ty." And then he says Shakespeare couldn't write any better than that. In the typewriter too, it says "Sweet eyes, stop. Out of jungle, stop. Okay, stop. Home," and so the stop just means like for space. But yeah, I mean, it just, that I feel like made this chapter, having that as an ending, and picturing the sound of joy she's making, like, oh, I get teary-eyed. But yeah, so it was a great chapter. Don't forget about your journal, and then let me know if you have any questions. Bye.